Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, last week we studied 2 episodes. We completed Krishna's teasing Rukmini. Krishna wanted to make Rukmini agitated. He wanted to see Rukmini get angry with him, and in this way Krishna would enjoy. As was mentioned previously, with all his other wives, Krishna would tease them or do something just on purpose to agitate them, and out of loving anger, they would chastise Krishna, and Krishna would thus enjoy this. But Rukmini was different because she was so submissive, so humble, so docile. She never got angry with Krishna. But Krishna still wanted to see that kind of emotion from Rukmini. So that is why Krishna spoke so many derogatory things, putting himself down. And then at one point Krishna suggested that Rukmini should divorce him. And by this time Krishna had grandsons. So as it was mentioned, all of Krishna's proposals sounded to Rukmini as being totally crazy. And instead of Rukmini getting angry, because at this time she was fanning Krishna, Krishna was sitting on the white bedstead, and Rukmini was fanning Krishna. Rukmini, after hearing the vituperation of Krishna, became so stunned that the bangles on her arms, they slackened, and she fainted, and the chamara fan fell from her hand. So Krishna picked up Rukmini, and at this time Krishna manifested his 4-armed Narayana form. So in Dwaraka, Krishna displays the 2-armed form as he does in Mathura and Vrindavan. But in this episode, after Rukmini faints, then Krishna manifested his 4-armed Narayan form, and he picked up Rukmini, put her in his arms, wiped away the tears from Rukmini's face and the perspiration. And Krishna apologized to Rukmini and said, "Oh, I wasn't expecting this response from you. I was thinking, like my other wives, that you would get angry and I would see your eyebrows get angry. I'm very sorry," Krishna said. And he told Rukmini, "You are my favorite wife." So now, in this episode, we're going to see how Rukmini responds to Krishna. "My dear Lord, you have stated that persons who possess nothing are very dear to you. Renouncing everything, your devotee wants to possess you only. I see, therefore, that a great sage like Narada Muni, who does not possess any material property, is still very dear to you. And such persons do not care for anything but your lordship. My dear Lord, you also stated that a marriage between persons equal in social standing, beauty, riches, strength, influence, and renunciation those can be a suitable match. But this status of life can be possible only by your grace. You are the supreme perfectional source of all opulences. Whatever opulent status one may have is all derived from you. As described in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asya Yataha. You are the supreme source from which everything emanates, the reservoir of all pleasures. Therefore, persons endowed with knowledge desire only to achieve you and nothing else. To achieve your favor, they give up everything, even the transcendental realization of Brahman. You are the supreme, the ultimate goal of life. You are the reservoir of all interests of the living entities. Those who are actually well motivated desire only you, and for this reason they give up everything to attain that success. They therefore deserve to associate with you. In the society of the servitors and the served in Krishna consciousness, one is not subject to the pains and pleasures of material society, which functions according to sex attraction. Therefore, everyone, whether man or woman, should seek to become an associate in your society of servitors and served. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one can excel you, nor can anyone come up to an equal level with you. You are Asam Marva. The perfect social system is that in which you remain in the center, being served as the supreme, and all others engage as your servitors. In such a perfectly constructed society, everyone can remain eternally happy and blissful. My Lord, you also stated that only the beggars praise your glories, and that is also perfectly correct. But who are those beggars? Those beggars are all exalted devotees, liberated personalities, and those in the renounced order of life. They are all great souls and devotees who have no other business than to glorify you. Such great souls forgive even the worst offender. These so-called beggars execute their spiritual advancement in life, tolerating all tribulations in this material world. My dear husband, do not think that I accepted you as my husband out of my inexperience. No. Actually, I followed all these great souls. I followed the path of these great beggars and decided to surrender my life unto your lotus feet. My dear husband, you have also said that you are penniless, and that is correct, for you distribute yourself completely to these great souls and devotees. Knowing this fact perfectly well, I rejected even such great personalities as Lord Brahma and King Indra. My Lord, the great time factor acts under your direction only. The time factor is so great and powerful that within moments it can effect devastation anywhere within the creation. Considering all these factors, I thought Jarasandha, Shishupal, and similar princes who wanted to marry me to be no more important than ordinary insects. So I just like to make a comment here. How Rukmini just said that she decided to accept Krishna, and she would reject even any personality up to the standard of Lord Brahma and King Indra. And this reminds me of the churning of the ocean of milk by the demigods and demons, which caused the appearance of Mohini. So when they were churning the ocean of milk, the demigods on one side, demons on the other, using the snake Vasuki as the churning rope and the golden Mandara mountain as the churning rod, many things were produced from the churning. The first thing was Hala Hala, poison, which Lord Shiva drank. And there were Airavata, Indra's elephant, and other elephants. And other things were produced. And at some point, Lakshmi was produced from the churning of the ocean of milk. And once Lakshmi appeared, she was looking over all the demigods and looking over all the demons, and she categorized and analyzed. Well, someone may have this good quality, but may have this bad quality, and so forth and so on. She was looking to see who was the most suitable person to accept. So looking at all the demons and demigods, Lakshmi said, none of these are suitable. But then she saw Lord Vishnu, and she said, yes, here is someone who is actually qualified for me to accept as my shelter, as my consort, as my husband. So it's the same kind of logic here used by Rukmini. After all, Rukmini is the original Lakshmi. Let us continue as Rukmini is still responding to Krishna's accusations of himself. My dear all-powerful son of Vasudeva, your statement that you have taken shelter within the water of the ocean, being afraid of all the great princes, seems quite suitable. But my experience with you contradicts this, for I have actually seen that you kidnapped me forcibly in the presence of all the princes, headed by Shishupal, Jarasandha, etc. At the time of my marriage ceremony, simply by giving a jerk to the string of your bow, you very easily drove all the others away and kindly gave me shelter at your lotus feet. Indeed, I still remember vividly how you kidnapped me in the same way that a lion forcibly takes its share of hunted booty, driving away all small animals within the twinkling of an eye. Oh, my dear lotus-eyed Lord, I cannot understand your statement that women and other persons who have taken shelter under your lotus feet pass their days only in bereavement. From the history of the world, we can see that princes like Anga, Prithu, Bharata, Yayati, and Gaya were all great emperors of the world, and there were no competitors to their exalted positions. But in order to achieve the favor of your lotus feet, they all renounced their exalted positions and entered the forest to practice penances and austerities. when they voluntarily accepted these positions, accepting your lotus feet as all in all, does that mean they were in lamentation and bereavement? I do not think so. My dear Lord, you have advised me that still I can select another from the princely order and divorce myself of your companionship. But my dear Lord, it is perfectly well known to me that you are the reservoir of all good qualities. Great saintly persons like Narada Muni are always engaged in simply glorifying your transcendental characteristics. Someone who simply takes shelter of such a saintly person immediately becomes freed from all material contamination. And when one comes in direct contact with your service, the goddess of fortune agrees to bestow all her blessings. I want to repeat that. That to me is very significant. Notice what Rukmini Devi is saying. When one comes in direct contact with your service, the goddess of fortune agrees to bestow all her blessings. So when it says here, direct contact with your service, this is bhakti. Bhakti is direct service to the Lord. This is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. So here is impetus. Here is a good news that yes, if you are directly engaged in devotional service, hearing, chanting, remembering, praying, etc., the 9 different processes, the goddess of fortune will agree to bestow all her blessings. Rukmini continues, under the circumstances, what woman who has once heard of your glories from authoritative sources and who has somehow or other relished the nectarian fragrance of your lotus feet would be foolish enough? Who would be that foolish to marry someone of this material world who himself is always afraid of death, disease, old age, and rebirth? I have therefore accepted your lotus feet, not without consideration, but after a mature and deliberate decision. My dear Lord, you are master of the 3 worlds. You can fulfill all the desires of all your devotees in this world and the next, because you are the supreme soul of everyone. I have therefore selected you as my husband, considering you to be the only fit personality. You may throw me into any species of life according to the reactions of my fruitive activities, and I haven't the least concern for this. My only ambition is that I may always remain fast to your lotus feet, for you can deliver your devotees from illusory material existence and are always prepared to distribute yourself to your devotees. My dear Lord, you have advised me to select one of the princes, such as Shishupal, Jarasandha, or Dantavakra. But what is their position in this world? They are always engaged in hard labor to maintain their householder life. They are just like bulls working hard day and night on an oil pressing machine. Such princes are compared to asses, beasts of burden. They are always dishonored like dogs, and they are miserly like cats. they have sold themselves like slaves to their wives. Any unfortunate woman who has never heard of your glories may accept such a man as her husband. But a woman who has learned about you, that you are praised not only in this world, but in the halls of the great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, will not accept anyone besides you as her husband. A man within this material world is just like a dead body. In fact, superficially, the living entity is covered by this material body, which is nothing but a bag of skin decorated with a beard and mustache, hairs on the body, nails on the fingers, and hairs on the head. And within this decorated bag of bunches of muscles, bundles of bones, and pools of blood, always mixed with stool, urine, mucus, bile, and polluted air, and enjoyed by different kinds of insects and germs. A foolish woman accepts such a dead body as her husband, and in sheer misunderstanding loves him as her dear companion. But this is possible only because such a woman has never relished the ever blissful fragrance of your lotus feet. So, some of you, some of you may have found this last statement by Rukmini to be quite surprising. Some of you might be thinking, oh, this is so heavy, so negative. Yes, because the Bhagavatam, this Krishna book comes from Bhagavatam. This Bhagavatam is meant to drive out all kinds of materialistic religious understanding. This Krishna book, this Bhagavatam, is only extolling pure devotional service, love of Godhead, nothing material. So when seen in that light, then you should see Rukmini here. She is actually espousing a deeper understanding of the beginning concepts of transcendental knowledge. You may recall that when we studied Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2 I mentioned was the beginning of transcendental knowledge. And what was the opening information of chapter 2? It was the difference between the body and the soul, the difference between the material and the spiritual, the difference between what is temporary and what is eternal. So even though Rukmini is the goddess of fortune, she still has this transcendental knowledge, and she's simply speaking the absolute truth. Let's continue, because Rukmini is not finished with her response to Krishna. My dear lotus-eyed husband, you are self-satisfied. You do not care whether or not I am beautiful or qualified. You are not at all concerned about it. Therefore, your non-attachment for me is not at all astonishing. It is quite natural, for you cannot be attached to any woman, however exalted her position and beauty. So, whether you are attached to me or not, may my devotion and attention be always engaged at your lotus feet. I want to stop there, because this is exactly Lord Chaitanya's 8th Shikshastakam prayer, which if you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the final chapter, you will see that the 8th Shikshastakam prayer is actually explained by Lord Chaitanya in the voice of Srimati Radharani. So that 8th Shikshastakam verse, Aslishyava Padaratang Pinashtu Mam, Adarshanan Marmahatam Kurotuva, Yatatata Va Vididhatu Lampato, Mat Prana Natastu Sa Eva Naparaha. So Lord Chaitanya, or Srimati Radharani, explains that Krishna, you are my God, you are my Lord, unconditionally. There is no condition of my love for you. If you break my heart, I still love you. If you embrace me, I still love you. If you're not attached to me, I still love you. Indeed, in that chapter, the final chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Radharani gives a purport to the 8th Shikshastakam verse. And at one point, Radha says, if there's a gopi that Krishna wants and he can't have that gopi, Radharani says, I will go to that gopi, I will become her maidservant and drag her by the hand to Krishna. And then Radharani explains further that I only want the pleasure of Krishna. I do not care about my own happiness and distress. No, I only want to see the happiness of Krishna. Elsewhere in that explanation by Radharani, she says that I will do anything for, there's nothing I will not do for Krishna. I am completely surrendered. And she says, if there's something that I like, Radharani says, if there's something I like, but Krishna does not like it, I hate that thing. And if there's something that Krishna likes, and I don't like it, but Krishna likes it, then yes, I'm all for that. In other words, Radharani's love is completely selfless. There's not a pinch of personal desire. Everything Radharani and the gopis do is to simply please Krishna. There is no other consideration. The incident I like to always mention in this regard is the incident where Narada Muni was sent, and he was sent on a mission by Krishna. So Krishna told him, I want you to go to these brahmanas who are there on earth and tell them that I have a headache. And if the brahmanas inquire as to the remedy of my headache, tell them that I said, I want the dust from the feet of the brahmanas, and then my headache will go away. So Narada did what Krishna asked. These brahmanas were very exalted. So Narada said to the brahmanas, you know, Krishna has a headache. And the Brahmin said, oh, really? Is there something we can do? Narada said, yes. Krishna wants the dust of your feet. So then the Brahmanas became angry. They said to Narada, what are you saying? Don't you know that if we give the dust of our feet to Krishna, we will go to hell? You must be some imitation, Narada. You must be testing us. No, we are not going to put our dust of our feet on Krishna's head. No. So then Narada went back to Krishna, and Krishna said, now make the same proposal to the gopis. Let's see what happens. So Narada then went to the gopis, and the gopis were very respectful to Narada. And they said, "Oh, Narada, do you have any news from Krishna?" Just see. The only thing the gopis think about is Krishna. So, Narada said, yes, I come here to inform you that Krishna has a headache. And the gopis said, "Oh, really? Oh, how can we alleviate Krishna's headache? What can we do?" And Narada said, "Well, Krishna said that he wants the dust of your lotus feet, for that is the only thing that will cure his headache." So the gopis, unlike the brahmanas, they did not get angry. They said, "Of course, take as much of our dust from our feet. We'll do anything to relieve Krishna's headache." So then Narada said, "But don't you know that if you give the dust of your feet to Krishna, you will go to hell?" And the gopis said, "We don't care. Going to hell? We don't care. If giving the dust of our feet to Krishna will alleviate Krishna's headache, then yes, we are prepared to go to hell." That is the symptom of the pure devotee. Even at their own expense, they are willing to do anything for Krishna. So this statement by Rukmini now ends. She says, "The material mode of passion is also your creation. So when you passionately glance upon me, I accept that as the greatest boon of my life. I am ambitious only for such auspicious moments." Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.